The Cold Omaha Podcast Network.
Hell yeah, let's get Stinko.
Welcome, Giles and Goals Podcast. Giles Farrell here. Across the table from me is Ben Remington.
Hello.
Back from Sacktown once again. But he's got a nice, lovely week off in his homeland.
Yeah.
Are you thoroughly stoked?
Yeah, I actually have groceries in my fridge, which is weird.
You have more than me.
So yeah, no, it'll be nice to have a week home and just lay around in my underwear and watch playoff hockey with my dog.
Don't you hate pants?
That was far too much. You're frightening away our guest.
Well, luckily for them, this isn't any kind of visual experience, so.
This is true. We would have been toast long ago if this was a visual experience. But we do have a guest joining us today from Hockey Wilderness is Joe Bouley.
Hey, how's it going?
No.
I'm trying to get there.
Well,
Giles is a drink in, so.
You were explaining your wonderful week of playoff hockey in your underwear, and I don't know, I have kids, so it's probably not okay to have that, but that sounds like a dream week right there.
I'll probably wear pajama pants, let's be honest.
Pants optional? I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's a 50-50 proposition.
I would love just a week to just do nothing.
It would be wonderful.
Yeah. Maybe have pants on from time to time, but...
Well, actually, I probably won't get to do nothing a whole lot. Maybe a couple of days, but I've got plans Wednesday and plans Friday, and one of those days I got to take my little brother to the batting cages. So
aren't you just a social butterfly?
Well, this is what happens when you're gone every weekday for like 2 months straight. You end up having to condense your entire life into 1 week when you're home, or every weekend when you're home. Either way.
Yeah.
So yeah,
appreciate the little things like Ben squeezing a podcast into his short weekends.
It's true. I'm in Minnesota for 2 days a week, and I spend like a quarter of that podcasting.
He still chooses to come and podcast with me for reasons unknown to me.
Priorities.
Yeah.
We're so happy he showers still, right?
Well, I mean, you don't know that for sure. So.
Yeah. But there's the little digs at me here, like the coleslaw that he just put on his sandwich.
Yeah. It's a pulled pork sandwich. You gotta.
It's okay. I have a question. I was helping a friend move today, and this word, I haven't heard this in a while. But do you like? And I thought about this. Like, not many people probably know what this is called, or at least like millennials. So, like, if I said davenport, would you know what that is?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
We all have grandparents, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That was kind of the crowd I was around today. Yeah, it was.
Someone actually called.
Somebody actually called like a couch a davenport today, and like I knew what that was because but I feel like the younger the crowd gets, and you say davenport, you might.
Oh God, yeah. I can't imagine anybody younger than us would get it.
Yeah, no. I know when I was younger, I always grew up with it being a couch or even a sofa. But my grandma would always be like, "You want to go watch some TV? Go sit on a davenport." And I'm like, "What the hell's a davenport?"
How the hell did it get that name? Honest to God.
It caught me off guard because I had not heard it in a long time. And then I was like, I still know what this is. Like, I should probably get a medal because I'm probably the youngest person to know what this is. You
probably are, quite honestly. I think, that line is probably right at you. And then below that,
If I threw it out to some of our younger friends on Twitter, be like, do you know what a davenport is? I'd probably be like, the city?
Yeah.
That's about it.
Even that's pretty irrelevant because it's in Iowa, so...
That is true.
Yeah, this is what happens when the Wild bow out in 5. We sit here and we talk about Davenport. We are here to lecture you about Davenports.
Can I tell you about linguistics of seating arrangements for a half an hour on our podcast?
Yeah.
It's a sad state of affairs.
Yeah, no, it is.
Are there any hot Davenport takes out there? No?
No, I don't know. I feel like the couches are like really. There's no gray area with couches. Either you have a good couch or you have a bad couch.
Yes.
And then I feel like I've come across a lot of bad couches in my day. But good couches. Is there anything better than a good couch though?
No.
Yeah.
No.
That's kind of where I'm at.
Doesn't get much better than that.
Right.
Ones that you kind of get sucked into and you can just fall asleep on.
That's like my couch, which I fell asleep on last night. But
your couch is very comfy.
Probably other reasons than, just the fact that I was tired.
Were you medicated, Giles?
Self-medicated. Yeah. That's what happens when the wild about.
Right.
Really.
Yeah, and then your backup team is quite crapping the bed.
Well, and both your backup teams. We talked about this last week, how the Caps and the Rangers, we want them to win because we feel like it's so
want
deserved.
Nice things for good players.
Right, and then
Minnesota connections on those teams, too.
Well, aside from that, but and then both teams just absolutely crap the bed. And not that they're playing that poorly. The Capitals vastly outplayed the Penguins in Game 1. Kind of got beat pretty handily yesterday. And then the Rangers seem to be playing pretty well, but then, you lose in double overtime. It's not really, that's a either way kind of situation. So that's a rough week.
The Caps lost in Game 1, and they heavily outplayed the opposition. Where have I heard that before?
It's funny because I saw Japers Rink, the SBN blog for the Capitals. He basically said the same thing, if the Caps play like that, I'd like my chances. And I was
Game
like, God, that sounds awfully familiar.
Man.
Well, and the funny thing was, the same thing happened to the Blues. The Blues outplayed the Preds in Game 1. They had way more shot chances. And they dominated possession. And some people were tweeting the exact same things, oh man, they play like this the whole series. And former guest of the show, Art Lippo, the Blues, he just laughed. He's like, hey, Wild fans, what do you think about this situation? Yeah, sure, that's going to go great for you guys. And then, of course, they win Game 2 because the world's not fair. So,
right. PK Subban.
Yeah.
How fun is he, though?
Oh yeah, except when he's dancing.
Yeah, we don't like dancing.
Then that offends prominent NBCSN analysts.
Well, we're gonna the word prominent.
We're gonna skip out of order here on topics, so we're just gonna dive right into this. Okay, I didn't actually see this live, but of course it got replayed on just about any site that covers the NHL. And we have spent many times wondering why Mike Milbury has work, why he is employed by NBCSN. But when you say PK Subban, when you basically imply he's a clown because he's, dancing out there.
He said he was a clown.
The warm-up.
He's some kind of disgrace to hockey for...
How dare he have fun warming up? How dare he show... What's the word? Character.
Yeah.
It goes back to the Allen Iverson quote. We're talking about practice. We're talking about warm-ups. Yeah. It's ridiculous. If it's one thing if he's showboating in a game like that.
Yeah.
But it's warm-ups. Music's playing.
Right, and the same thing came to mind to me because the Wild let Matt Dumba basically have free reign over the warm-ups music every game, so it's just 45 minutes of Skrillex basically, and it's just I'm sorry, Mike Milbury, that all of these hockey players are 30 years younger than you and may have different ways of going about their business, but what the do you care? And Mark Lazarus actually, I guess I don't follow Lazarus, so I wouldn't know.
He's a good one to follow.
Yeah, I probably should, but he kind of went off on the whole deal. Yeah. Well, right.
I wanted the Wild Blackhawks matchup just so I could have a Nordy shot at.
Oh, me too, yeah. I still have the Nordy photoshopped on the Bear Jew from Inglourious Bastards picture on my phone. Also, Nordy photoshopped on Sting from WCW in the late 90s. I still have those saved on my phone for that reason.
Somehow get Nordy with the face paint of Sting.
That's his Halloween costume next year. That would be phenomenal.
That would be amazing.
Especially if he descended from the rafters. But anyway, like, even he said, and he went after Melrose, which I don't know that Melrose has ever said anything that buffoonish, but Melrose in general is akin to Milbury in that his analysis isn't really all that exciting or groundbreaking. Where he said that, the most prominent voices in hockey on TV right now are Barry Melrose and Mike effing Milbury. Like,
yeah,
there's a problem with that. That's like, and he brings up a fantastic point. Not that we need some 25-year-old, mother's basement blogger talking to people on NBCSN between periods. That's not what us as mother's basement bloggers are requesting or anything.
I'm 30, but does that help my situation? I don't know.
No, it doesn't. But it just makes it more sad, Joe. Trust me, I'm 32. Okay. So, but it just. We want someone who has a clue, just a clue about what what is going on in the NHL, and someone who can give some actual analysis. Like I've said this when I talked about having to watch the game on my computer in Sacramento and watching the NBCSN feed. During the game, great, because I don't have to hear Tony Pants and Greenlay. Between intermission, between the periods, terrible. Oh, yeah. Because it doesn't get worse than NBCSN, and I actually think that, like, depending on who it is, Wes Walz, Tom Chorsky, they do a pretty good job. Yeah, I think overall, especially Walz has been lauded a lot. I think they do a pretty good job of breaking down game film, right, explaining it in words that even the most basic casual fan can understand, and also able to be critical of this team, which is something that Pants and Greenlay go nowhere near, of course. But it just. It's such a weird dichotomy with NBCSN where you get really, really good announcers. You get Doc Emmerich, you get Cuthbert, you get Strader, and then during the intermission you get
Kenny Albert.
Somewhere
many sports, though, and he's pretty versatile.
Somewhere Charlie Beatty just yelled at his listening device.
And then during the intermission you get Roenick and Milbury, and I don't.
Keith Jones.
Jones. I could take her leave.
Jones is indifferent. Yeah,
I could take her leave. Jones.
What's funny with Keith Jones is he does to me his takes are like. He doesn't take a stance on anything.
No,
he just
really.
Kind of sits right in the middle.
That's Keith Jones right there.
He's kind of like Milbury, just less buffoonish, where he just kind of points out the obvious, and that's his analysis, and then it's like, okay. But he doesn't say anything stupid like Milbury does, so there's that. That's his positive, I guess.
Speaking of Wes Walz, this is just random, but yesterday I was bored looking up random Wild team stats. Wes Walz had seven shorthanded goals in the team's inaugural season. A team that was never going to score more than 2 goals a night. Wes Walz had 7 shorthanded goals. That fact just blows me away. But anyway,
Wes Walz is always a fun player to watch.
And
his famous pants goal against the Blue Jackets.
Tremendous.
Our awards.
Yeah, we'll have to do that next week. We'll have to get together. We're going to do Wild awards.
Sure, but when you're talking about the local guys, I personally kind of give or take or leave Ben Clymer, but you're absolutely right about Chorsky and Walz when it comes to their analysis. I think
you do a great job.
I can listen to those guys break down a game or game footage for a long time.
There is times when Walz will just straight shoots how he feels the Wild played, which is great on a night when they do not play well. And then for about the next 10 games, you kind of see him having to be pulled way back on the takes.
You can see the leash.
Yeah. It's just a choke collar.
It's like a bark collar. I'm not gonna do it.
Nope.
Back to NBCS. I'm I don't know. I'm not sure who's out there to like replace Milbury, but there's got to be somebody better.
Anyone? Freaking anyone.
Basically anyone who was just let go from the ESPN hockey department, which is now passed.
Yeah, which is now Barry Melrose on an island.
And the thing is, Barry Melrose is a caricature of the whole thing, too. He's the guy that likes dropping the gloves every minute you got and that whole thing. And while there's places for that, it's not like... That's not the game anymore. It is speed and skill, and I think that's one thing that the NHL just doesn't market enough of. And then they got these old guys that, when we were watching the World Cup of Hockey, you had Chelios and
Hull.
Brett Hull. I mean, it was amazing.
That was great. I thought they were great.
Literally, for NBCSN, they could find any of the local guys in these local markets that do such a good job. Yep. And just elevate them and bring them on. And that's really what markets used to do.
And it's not like Milbury has some kind of amazing credentials that he needs to be the guy. Like his presence garners respect on a hockey telecast. Give me an effing break. That guy is a joke. He's a joke not just as an announcer, but as a hockey guy. Like, as an executive, he's a joke. Like, it's not like, you need him around to give your show credibility. Wes Walz is just as credible of a hockey mind as Mike Milbury.
I got John Spano on line one talking about Milbury's credibility.
No kidding, right?
It gets to the point of PK Subban. Somebody, as always, whenever PK Subban does good, somebody will tweet this, and it just blows up on hockey Twitter. Is why the NHL does not market PK Subban immensely as so bad.
Well, it's not only that he's an exciting player on the ice, but I mean, it's what you want in a player with all the stuff that he does off the ice too. Like, this is a perfect guy to market, and it's just like outside of Nashville, there's really no marketing really at all.
Who's the guy we get shoved down our throats for marketing?
Patrick Kane.
Eddie Kane. Ooh, I want to throw the remote through the television every time I have to watch that god-awful Gatorade commercial.
I know, and I'm like, how can Gatorade be that tone deaf? Honest to God. Like, I don't... You could have picked so many different players.
Right.
So many good players. Tell me Steven Stamkos is turning down that deal. Tell me that John Tavares is turning down that deal.
But you're listing off Canadians. Patrick Kane, American.
Phil Kessel.
Jack Eichel.
Yeah, Jack Eichel.
Coach Killer,
Connor
Jack
McDavid.
Eichel.
Can we, I know he probably...
He's still one coach behind Parisi, though.
Yeah, true.
Did you see... this is completely off topic, but I just laughed at Buffalo again today when I saw Terry Pegula, owner of the Sabres and the Bills. He fired the GM of the Bills the day after the NFL draft.
He did?
He did.
Oh, my God.
What a tire fire.
Terry Pegula, ruining careers in college hockey since 2000.
Yeah, he should be getting way more heat for the demise of the WCHA.
Yes,
but
he does.
A lot of fingers get pointed at Barry Alvarez for good reason.
Oh yeah,
here.
But all right, I guess on to wild discussion.
Do we have to?
We try to be a wild podcast, but yeah. If you can't tell by the sigh from Joe, he's at where I probably still am. But how are you feeling?
Well, I've successfully gone through the 5 stages of grief. I was in complete denial. I thought the Wild were the better team, and they still lost.
Sure.
And then Chuck Fletcher's press conference, I was really not happy. I didn't think he was going to be nuclear on the bit, but I also was ready for the negativity. I wanted my feelings validated, and I just didn't get that.
Maybe just a little more you know what? Yeah, we should have won that series and we didn't. Yeah. Maybe not just painting such a rosy picture on the season.
Exactly.
Well, I'm not going to defend him glossing over everything the way that he did.
We've already firmly planted our flag in the Fletcher camp, so you might as well.
No, but I think it's completely fair to be upset with the way that he handled it, but at the same time, I kind of understand why he went about it that way, because if he is going to paint the picture of any kind of negativity whatsoever, then you're going to have everyone and their mom come out and be like, well, why aren't you making huge moves? Why aren't you making huge trades? Why aren't you know? If he's going to mention any kind of, this is unacceptable, if he's going to go Stan Bowman on the bit, if this is unacceptable, we can't, and then people are going to expect him to make changes. And like, us and other local hockey minds don't really know that changes are necessary or big changes. I mean, there's going to be changes regardless.
Yeah.
To anyone who's
forced upon them.
Right, exactly. No, there's no way the exact same team is going into next season. There's just no possible way it's going to happen with expansion and the salary cap and et cetera. So I don't excuse it either, because I think it was really disappointing. I was disappointed, too, to hear him be like, well, hey, we had a great regular season. Go get them, boys.
He did have a great regular season.
Yeah.
Right. To have the 5 games.
Right. But I understand, like, he was very careful about not throwing too much shade on this team, because then, like I said, everyone's going to expect him to make some kind of huge, splashy move, like Stan Bowman. I mean, to be completely honest, if the Blackhawks don't make a huge, splashy move this summer, what does that tell their fans? After Bowman went ape during their press conference, basically, what does that tell their fans? I mean, they traded Scott Darling. That's not really a splashy move. But if they don't make a big move this summer, what does that tell their fans? Yeah. That Bowman's nutless, or that he's dumb, or just feeding them a line of bull, So I'm not defending Fletcher being, rosy and all that, but I understand kind of why he did it, because he thinks, like we think, that this team can win. And it didn't this year, but he still thinks this team, as it sits, or whatever incarnation we see of it next year, can win. So it sucks, because everyone wants to feel validated in their anger, but...
Well, that's kind of what I was looking for.
Right, exactly.
And again, I get it. Like, obviously, you want to evaluate how you do as, 82-game season. Which,
compared to 5, yeah.
Yeah, the Wild did, pretty well outside of the month of March.
Right.
But, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm trying to say anymore. But, like, I understand where he's saying, like, yeah, we want to evaluate the 82-game season and look to build from that. And then, the playoffs are, like you said, 1,700 times last week, a crapshoot.
Yeah.
And when you have an incredibly hot goalie, that'll just about do it.
Ultimate equalizer.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, with Chuck Fletcher, it was, he did definitely point to some things that needed to be changed. Sure. Like backup goaltender is.
The fact that he mentioned that by name is,
and he labeled it as critical,
right?
As something that needed to be done. I mean, that's.
Clearly, he did not listen to the podcast for the last 2 years.
Right. I mean,
Giles' personal stump for the last 3 seasons.
It's one of those things that needs to be done. Is that going to necessarily put the team over the edge? Likely not. But I'll tell you what, you don't have March happen, and maybe you change.
Here's the question. Like, say the Wild win 2 more games in March that they should have. They win the division.
Right.
Do they get by Nashville? Because Nashville's playing
pretty good,
pretty well. I mean, they swept Chicago, and Pecorine had an even better series against Chicago than Jake Allen did against the Wild.
That's true.
I'm not saying
no,
Pecorine was going to have the same results against the Wild, but
right. It's impossible to know that, but it would have at least been a different series. And again, it doesn't matter because it's the playoffs, so nothing matters. But the Wild do have a pretty good track record against Pecorine. They have kind of beat him up. So, I mean, who knows if that carries over at all? It probably doesn't, in fact. But, it just kind of, it would have been a different finish. I mean, how much better off would people feel if this was a division-winning team that lost in the first round versus just a really good team that lost in the first round?
Well, and then the other thing, too, is they have been able to find ways around Pecorine in the past.
Yeah.
The Wild have. But did Chicago really even test Pecorine like the Wild tested Jake Allen?
Probably not. I don't think they got the chances.
They came pretty strong in Game 3.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, they really took their foot off the gas, and I was floored.
I didn't get to see any of those games, so I wouldn't even know.
And I don't care.
Right. I mean so honestly, happy. I said it last week. I was like, you know what? It was really great when all of hockey Twitter collectively came together for a half hour and just crapped on the Blackhawks. It was wonderful.
That GIF that you guys made of PK Subban sweeping,
it was perfect.
Oh my God, was that amazing? Oh, that was just amazing.
I want to be buried with that.
Yeah, that was a good one, and that was really just. I woke up one morning and someone was like, "Hey, try to put PK Subban's face on this one," and Vili, our guy from Finland, who's really good with Photoshop, put that together, and I mean, it went
incredible.
I was like, this is going to go off. It's going to be amazing, and it was one of those things where it was like, even. You know, we were still in the series with the Blues, but our friends at St. Louis Game Time, are, retweeting it like, this is amazing. Yeah. We became friends instead of enemies for a moment. It was great.
I hear you. Yeah, no, that was an amazing GIF.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it now.
Oh, just so good.
I favor too many things. I really do. And I got to be like you and have a very limited like stance. Just retweet.
I
retweet
favorite
stuff. And
if you look through my favorites, they're pretty damn good tweets because I'm pretty reserved with my favorites.
When I see you hit the like button on a tweet, then I know I did okay. It's kind of like
more discriminatory. When
I am very discriminatory.
I use the like button as I'm not going to type something back to you.
Yeah,
here's some acknowledgement.
I understand that. Yeah, I understand that play. I mean, yeah, but I like to save because I like to look through my likes on occasion and just look at just amazing tweets, and all of them absolutely floor me or make me crap myself laughing. So I like to have that kind of gallery of liked tweets.
I'm gonna try and find the topics here. So are there any other kind of thoughts from the clean out day? And they had the assembled players kind of talk to the media and whatnot, and everyone. Honestly, I'll say this: I thoroughly enjoyed watching the Twitter meltdown from Chuck Fletcher's comments. It was just great. I'm not gonna say I was totally convinced that was gonna happen, but I was like, you know what, he's gonna come out and say things that are just gonna make Twitter melt, and of course that did happen. It was just great, and I'm just sitting there. This is wonderful. But anyway,
well, it goes back to what I said. Can't remember when I said it. I said it in a tweet. Oh, that's right. I had one of those stream of consciousness tweets on Sunday night when I landed in Sacramento, with all of these people that are just bloodthirsty. We need to fire Fletcher and we need to make changes.
Boudreau.
Well,
seen those?
Yeah, good God.
Sorry, we got a sidebar because I was listening to another podcast, and there were a few questions on the head coach, and I'm just sitting there going, say again, please? What? No. Sorry, folks. Bruce Boudreau is he's not going anywhere.
No.
Sorry, it's not his fault that, Jake Allen was a brick wall.
It's exactly what happened. It's bloodthirst. It's, and the same way that we felt where we were like, I'm angry, I'm in denial, whatever, I need something to satiate, this anger that I have. That's all it is. Every time you talk to somebody who's in the Fire Fletcher camp, they have no ideas, no clue of anything they want to do going forward.
Right.
None whatsoever. And some of them, and I'm, insert names as you want, they'll say, oh yeah, Fletcher, this is evened out and this is evened out, and he's made some good moves, he's made some bad moves, but they haven't won, so he needs to be fired. And it's like, well, okay, you're not thinking about anything beyond right now. You're not thinking about anything beyond satisfying the anger that you have, vindicating the anger that you have about this team.
You gotta dig deep past the anger.
I know.
And
Fine
it's
logic.
Tough. Trust me, folks. It is tough to get past the anger that exists from that playoff series.
You have to rise above the primate brain to the human brain.
Right.
That upper level cerebrum that we all have to rationalize things and come to conclusions that make sense.
When has firing people for justice ever been a good idea?
That is very Minnesota sports.
Right.
To fire someone just for the sake of fire. I have said it time and time again. There are very good criticisms of him.
Sure.
But when I pay attention to the rest of the NHL, which apparently others do not.
They don't. No. That's the funny thing. They don't.
I sit there and go, you know what? He's not so bad compared to his peers. Yeah. he has had some bad deals, but he's not making atrocious deals like I see others do. So there's still, I don't know, like, just if you say, yeah, fire him, well, then you're rolling the dice on bringing someone who is going to make it worse.
Yeah, his team fires Chuck Fletcher and hires Pierre McGuire.
Imagine that. Pierre McGuire was a runner-up. Imagine where we'd be if Pierre McGuire was the GM.
I might just have an aneurysm.
And it's just like, so even the GMs we thought were good, Dean Lombardi, well, he got canned. Stan Bowman has successfully shoehorned his team into salary cap hell.
Yes.
Steve Yzerman, he looked really great, but, then Stamkos gets hurt, and that team can't even make the playoffs without their best player.
Right.
And apparently now he's got Nikita Kucherov just
pissed, spouting off about players.
Hey. Yeah, everyone else was like, hey, we got our checks, we're good.
Doesn't Toronto have like 5 GMs on their staff?
Exactly. So, there is a short lift, and I think good GMs can make a difference. You've seen what Theo Epstein has done in baseball.
Yes.
I don't know that there's a guy like that in hockey. I mean, maybe you could say Lou Lamoriello, but the Devils were really nothing to write home about for the last 10 seasons before he left. So it's just like, it is what it is. A lot of these GMs, would you rather have Garth Snow? Probably not.
No.
My eyebrow was raised when you said that.
Let's think about it real quick,
And here's another, concerning. I'm not saying, the Wild is going to have this because they have a pretty short history. But the trend of past great star players who are now becoming executives in hockey operations for their former teams.
I was thinking of bad GMs, and I didn't even think of Sakic.
I know.
Let's talk about that for a minute. Yesterday, he was on the television before the draft lottery, and I tweeted this. He is not aging well at all. Turn off the TV.
Do you blame him? This last year had to take about 10 years off his life.
And about a hairline and a half, too.
I mean, it's his own fault. He's pretty terrible at his job. He gave Jerome McGinley away for nothing. Literally nothing. But anyway.
He's
Ryan O'Reilly and who else? We can go down the list. They're just lucky to haven't given away Tyson Barrie yet. They're going to try, though.
They got straight
about to happen,
fleeced in the Ryan O'Reilly trade, when you look back on it. And they got, 2 prospects and some picks. They still did nothing with that.
None of them were very good. Yeah.
No. I can spend an entire podcast telling you about how Joe Sakic is terrible.
And how do you fire a guy that's got such a legacy with the franchise?
And that's the corner that you put yourself in. That's why hiring a legacy player from your own team is a terrible idea.
It's one thing for Tampa to hire Steve Yzerman.
He's got no history there. Nobody cares. They fire Steve Yzerman.
Steve Yzerman. For the Coyotes to hire Wayne Gretzky.
Right.
Steve Yzerman spent a couple years in the Detroit front office before he went to Tampa, so he had previous experience.
Cut his teeth.
Yeah. I'm a little more optimistic about Rob Blake now in LA because he spent a few years in the front office, but still it's you're kind of falling in line with what everyone else is doing.
Right.
But I think this could work because he did his time as an assistant. But again, that's just another, let's just get the old band back together. But
it's so self-serving to fans too.
So my original point of this was I don't think the Wild have to worry about this, but who would be that guy?
They've already got Andrew Burnett in there.
Oh yeah,
that's true.
That's a good point.
He gets bumped from the power play specialist to the GM,
special assistant to the GM or something.
Yeah. Darby Hendrickson, GM.
I was thinking Richard Park is a coach or something for
He's a roving instructor or something like that.
Yeah, there you go.
A skating coach or something.
Bring him back. There you go, new GM Richard Park. Anyway,
I think we're all surprised to hear that at Chuck Fletcher's press conference that Eric Staal has just got a concussion, and as bad as concussions as we know them to be,
that it was only a concussion.
At least he's not paralyzed.
I never thought I would say. Thankfully, it was only just a concussion.
Right. As hard as he hit. Oh my God.
The arena was as quiet as it was the night Keith Ballard got dinged into the the boards by Matt Martin.
I remember that.
That is now 2 times where I have been thoroughly uncomfortable sitting in a hockey arena.
Yeah.
Like, you're just sitting there and you're just like, I want no part of this.
They're gonna. You think the fans are gonna go World War Z over the wall, over the glass, and take out the Jake Allen's pad?
Yeah, no, that was the funny thing too, is that people were just like going nuts for a penalty on that play. And it's just like
that's a play that happens
right
in the regular
all the
season.
time. And again, it's just clamoring for justice. You just want something to make you feel better about what happened.
The result was terrible.
Oh, for sure.
Nobody wants to see anybody that happen. But my God, like I said, nobody with the horrors of concussions that we've seen, nobody wants to say that. Hey, luckily he's got a concussion. Right. But to hear that he originally felt numbness in his feet, that was scary.
Yeah. And then the only other injury news that we got was Granlund was playing with a broken hand, which kind of goes a long way towards explaining his postseason because he wasn't really particularly all that strong.
In Game 5, I think I tweeted this, where I was just like, man, he wants nothing to do with the puck.
Well, because he couldn't
none
handle
whatsoever.
It. Makes a lot of sense,
and then that comes out, and you're like, okay, this explains a lot.
Right.
Like, looking back, you're like, okay, now that I know, it's like I shouldn't have said that. But
well, no, because you didn't know. It's not like that's something they disclose. I mean, hockey is terrible with disclosing injuries, and then in the playoffs, they basically shut it off.
Right.
Like, it's just non-existent.
You have no idea if they're dealing with the lower body.
Right.
As vague as it could be that they're dealing with the lower body or
they could have even said Granlund has an upper body issue.
Right.
And he did sit out a game or two at the end of the season, but everyone's just like, oh, whatever, maintenance. Why is he playing? They already wrapped up a spot. Who cares?
He sat out the last game of the season, but they said that he broke his hand blocking a shot in Game 1. Because I know when it was first released, I was talking to somebody at work, and we're
that would explain it.
When the after that happened?
Yeah,
like when did that happen? Because we were hoping that he was going to be one of those guys that
the difference.
Well, and him of all people, as disappointing as he always was during the regular season, he actually always played really well in the playoffs. Remember last year he was moved to the wing for the first time in the playoffs.
Oh, and
he had a great series.
He had a great series. Koivu had a great series, and in
playoffs previous,
crazy, but yeah,
in playoffs previous, he had really good playoffs, and this year he was non-existent, and now we totally understand why.
And it's just like, it's so hard to just fully judge players in the playoffs because we don't know what they're dealing with. Like, that was the regular season. Yeah, Granlund probably sits out a while, but no, it's the playoffs, so he's going to play and just try to deal through it. But
speaking of injuries in the playoffs, remember the Colorado series in 2014? How can you forget, right? I remember the Avalanche, a couple of our Avalanche friends talking about how Jan Heda had 2 broken hands, and so he never could hold a stick. Well, the next season, I kept watching him, and because the Wild played the Avalanche the first 2 games of that season.
Twice.
Yep.
Right. Like a week apart, though. And I was like, so does Jan Heda still have 2 broken hands? Because he's just a terrible player. He's so bad. He was, oh, God. That was Joe Sakic move.
I was thinking about this. Yuck. Cody McLeod just scored as we're poking fun of the Avalanche.
Joe Sakic got rid of Cody McLeod, man.
I was thinking about this the other day. Like, you think about that 2014 playoffs. The Wild win round 1, and then they go 2-2 with Chicago before they lose the last 2.
Right.
That's the closest they've ever been to the next round in this run of five postseasons. And I feel like they've had some better teams come along since then.
Yeah.
But they still haven't been any closer than that point.
God, you just inserted the spreader into my wound. Man.
I'm in an emotional state now because you got Stick McLeod scoring a goal up here.
But on the bright side, Stick McLeod scoring is a slightly better chance that we don't have to watch any more Mike Yeo hockey in the playoffs.
Yes. So, speaking of that, are you guys one of those people that would rather see the team that you lost to get thoroughly pummeled, or want to see them go all the way so you have some sort of validation hey, we lost, but we didn't lose we lost to the Stanley Cup champion?
I'm a little indifferent on this. It depends on the team, but given my thoughts on Mike Yeo from now 2 podcasts ago, I want the Blues to die a painful death. I want them.
Yeah, I'm with Giles where I don't even want it for vengeance. I could give a crap less about that. I want it because their games are brutal to watch. Their games are so brutal to watch.
As so adequately described by a former Wild goaltender extraordinaire, Ilya Bryzgalov, on Friday night.
Did you see that on Friday night?
I missed it.
Briz literally tweeted, what did he tweet? He is, man, this game's so boring. Blues versus Press.
Yeah.
And then like 5 minutes later, he tweets, that period was a crime against hockey. Call the police emoji. And I was just, everyone who was on Twitter Friday was just rolling.
Isn't he the best?
Oh my God, Briz is so amazing. Briz is not a fan of Mike Yeo hockey when he's not playing behind it, apparently. Imagine that.
God, that's funny.
Well, it made him look good for a couple months.
Yeah, for a couple weeks, yeah.
That's my favorite stat line from the Game 7 against Colorado.
One save, one
Ilya
win.
Bryzgalov, one save, which was a crucial save in overtime, gets the win.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
It's funny, too, because Mike Yeo hockey... some people are saying, like, well, Mike Yeo out-coached Boudreau. And
I went off about that last week.
Wait a minute. So... allowing shots from basically everywhere and just giving up possession of the puck with no offensive chance.
Yeah.
That's out coaching. Like that's a hell of a fucking game plan. That is
right.
That is.
I went off about that. I was like, unless Mike Yeo is a goalie whisperer, I don't buy it because that's the only thing that won that series was Jake Allen, and I don't buy that Mike Yeo had some kind of flawless system to defeat his former team.
I think it was
really didn't.
I think it was Tony who kind of tweeted out the insane luck Yeo has had in his postseason coaching career.
Well, then you got other people that are going like, well, there's only there's only one coach that has made it to the second round in 3 years, and that's Mike Yeo, and it's like, whoop-de-doo, Basil.
Yeah.
So he's made it past the first round.
Oh, man.
Well, and like Tony laid out, the first time he beat the worst division winner in analytics history in the Colorado Avalanche.
The house of cards that were the Colorado.
Exactly. Like, anybody who was looking at hockey stats that season was like, how in the world did this happen? And basically, they'd won that entire season based solely on Varlamov having an incredible year. And then he fell apart a little bit. And they still needed overtime in Game 7 to do it. And then...
And offsides, Kyle.
Right. And then in the following season, when he beat the Blues... Dubnyk had, I think, one off game, but the rest of them were really good. And Jake Allen, as we had talked about many times, fell apart at the end of that series.
He was not good.
He was awful. And so then this season, what happens? Jake Allen stands on his head for 5 games, and they win the series. Surprise, surprise. Like, I can understand, and we've said this before, we're not even Yeo bashing to the extreme. We think he's a fine coach. We've heard he's an outstanding guy, but I don't buy him being the next coming of Scotty Bowman. I'm sorry.
Mike Yeo is a guy that I wish I could go fishing with and have a beer with, but not necessarily coach my favorite NHL team.
Right.
You brought up the Blues and Jake Allen, the Wild defeating him in that series. I hear the other narrative that Jake Allen, Devin Dubnyk's not a big game goalie. He's not going to rise to the level, and it's like, because Jake Allen was a big game goalie prior to this season. So now he's a big game goalie.
Yeah,
okay.
When he lost his job to a guy in the AHL mid-season this year,
he's got his old coach fired.
Right? No kidding. Yeah, if anyone's responsible for Hitch getting fired, it's Jake Allen.
I heard this on a podcast. I'm not sure if it's true, but Dubnyk's goals against average in the playoffs was 186, and this was pointed out as being one of the lowest in the history of the NHL to not win a playoff series.
Yeah, I buy it.
Which I would believe. I haven't looked that up, but that's the things I hate from this playoff series. Dubnyk not good. Boudreau bad coach.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he allowed 8 goals in 5 games.
You hear it on the radio. You know, that's the other thing is I've heard it on the radio where it's like Dubnyk, well, he let up some soft goals that I thought were soft in my opinion. I'm going, yeah.
Please tell me more about your goaltending expertise.
Like the Parayko goal probably should have been stopped.
Maybe.
The Stastny goal probably should have been stopped.
Sure.
But, like...
Well, and there's...
he kept his team in games.
People always...
winnable games.
People love to throw around the term soft goal. And those goals, were they goals that he would have had if he was playing at his height, or were there goals that he could have had? Sure, absolutely. But a soft goal, to me, and maybe this is just the goalie apologist, a soft goal to me where you watch it and you literally cringe. Like, you're like, oh, that was bad.
We've seen a lot of those from Darcy Kemper.
Right, exactly. And so, like a really bad 5-hole goal, or a really bad short side goal, or, something where he just got deked out of his, skates. I don't think we saw anything like that of Devin Dubnyk. There was goals that he should have had, goals that maybe he could have had if he was playing a little bit better. But there wasn't a single goal where I'm like, oh my god, that was awful.
Right, and we're also not getting his viewpoint. We're not too. We're not looking through his eyes through the math.
Yep, and I think it was the game winner in Game 2. Everyone talked about him not being able to, he had a Blues player parked in front of him the entire time as that play was developing, and it's like, could he have had that? Sure, it looked like a savable goal, but he literally, you could tell by his reaction, and he said after the game he did not see it at all, whatsoever. 100% he didn't see a single shred of that puck until it was in the back of the net. So you can blame those goals on him because it is kind of the goalie's job to get a good look at things, but there's a lot of shared responsibility there.
Right.
Again, it just comes back to, if you told me before the series Dubnyk was going to have a .925 save percentage,
right.
186 goals against average, I take it.
How many cups would Boudreau had if he got that out of his goalie every series?
Right? Right? Well, not to mention how much of a nice comeback that is from his, 888 from the month of March?
Yeah.
Like, that's responding, if you ask me.
Yeah.
And you look at his 2 playoffs before, 908 and 877 were the save percentages he posted in the previous 2 playoffs with the Wild.
Yeah.
And
not good.
I don't know. It hurts my head. That just it just boils down to, Jake Allen was just insanely hot.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed the meltdown during Game 1 when he was letting in goals.
Yeah, well,
but
that's going to happen.
Yeah. What can you do at this point?
Right. And then you're hearing for this series against the Predators how that Jake Allen was the egg ready to crack and the Wild just softened him up for him. We were about to get to him. If we had extra time, we could have won that series. Which,
maybe.
The Wild controlled pretty much every game, I thought.
Yeah.
Up until, that first period of Game 5, which was atrocious.
That was not good.
Yeah.
That was not the best time to have your worst period of the series.
No, not at all. But I would think that it would have been a hell of a lot more fun series than 5 games.
Yeah, it would have.
I think I love playoff hockey and just the swing of emotions when your team is in a playoff hockey game.
Oh God,
it's awful at the time. You look back and I was like, man, that's wonderful. But it's just so short-lived for 5 games and then that's it. It's just like
I went nuts on the Zucker goal.
Yeah.
House.
Yeah, I bet.
I had the windows open. The weather was nice. I think the neighbors across the street could hear me. People walking down the road.
I heard people screaming across the parking lot of my apartment complex from it. Yeah.
I went nuts.
What was nice about the 5 minutes before that goal, I was all Mr. Negative, and then that goal happens, and I'm just like, oh yeah, we're back now. We're going.
Let's go. Right. So I don't know if we want to approach this topic with a hockey wilderness person here, but the war on analytics that has been waged recently.
Oh boy!
I threw this out there in my post on Monday or Tuesday.
Sure.
But I was like, sure, I don't fully, go all in on analytics, but I know there's merit to these stats.
Sure.
And I was encouraged by the step the Wild took in the analytics the last month and a half, and then the way they played St. Louis. But then they lose, and you're just like, okay, here it comes. Here comes the anti-analytics crowd in full force going, the Wild dominated, but they still lost. Some analytics.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we saw this last week, and
It just...
why?
The thing that frustrates me is it being... that kind of attitude still being validated by people who are close to the game. And I think you guys know what I'm talking about. But it's just like, how long did baseball have to go through this? And people still don't get it. Like baseball went through this in the freaking 80s, in the 90s, early 90s. And did it take Moneyball for this to become acceptable? Like, what don't you get about there being some value to analytics? And again, I'm with you, Giles, and Joe, I'm sure you feel the same, where we look at analytics, we study the numbers, we cite the numbers in our articles. At the same time, we know enough that it's not the end-all, be-all to hockey analysis.
Right.
And it can't be.
There's a whole lot of context left out.
Exactly. And analytics, as great as they are, they can never tell you the answer why. And that's just how it is, because they're just numbers, and that's all they are. They're just numbers. They're not going to tell you why. You need to figure that out.
Right. As writers, we're supposed to provide that context.
Exactly.
Because we're the ones that are watching the game.
Yep.
The numbers are just tallies, essentially, on a spreadsheet.
For lack of a better term, yeah.
And you're supposed to provide the context for it. And, I've seen that too, but it's also the same people that... well, it's a 50-50 chance that I should, if I flip a coin, that I should get tails or heads, and think that if I flip it 10 times, well, I should get 5 heads and 5 tails. That's not how shit works.
No. That's
just not how the whole thing works.
No.
What the Wild did in the playoff series is better their chances of winning.
Yeah.
And that's, they put themselves into a position to control a game to the point that they could or should win. But that's not how, one, sports are played. That's not, two, how probability works out either.
Right.
There's always that slim chance that something can happen, and it ultimately did.
Well, and I think a lot of people, what they do is what guys like us have done is point to the analytics side of that series and be like, they lost, but they still played really well, and as a reason for something. And for us, it's a reason to explain to people this team is still really good.
Right.
Yeah. And that's what we're shooting for, was saying, hey, they dominated every facet of the game except for goals. They dominated. Like, not just slightly won, dominated. And people interpret that as us, trying to come up with some kind of moral victory for the series, like we're somehow not disappointed in the result of the series because they won the Corsi battle. Like, that's just not. And so that's where I think there's a disconnect there, and there's I guess always going to be that disconnect between analytics types and non-analytic types. But it just, we're not trying to make excuses for anybody. We're not trying to paint some kind of rosy moral victory picture. What we're doing is we're using it as an explanation for what happened, number one, because that's what we're striving for, too. We want answers, too. We want answers more than the common fan wants answers, because that's our job, is to come up with those answers. And so there's a disconnect there, and it's just like, we're trying to find answers. We're trying to explain to you what our stance is, why we don't think you should buy out Parisi and Suter right now, why we don't think that you should buy out Mikko Koivu and Jason Pominville right now. We're just trying to explain to you why we don't believe in your line of thinking that has no basis in any kind of statistical analysis whatsoever.
As you've been saying this, I have Twitter open here.
Uh-oh.
And a screenshot from Hockey Stats was put onto Twitter from the Blues-Preds game that's taking place, and we're about midway through the second period. The St. Louis Blues have 0 shot attempts.
They've flatlined.
It is a straight flat line from the end of the first.
Yeah, I'm just seeing it right now. I think shots on goal was 25-10 when they pulled it up last, and all 10 must have come in the first period.
I just found that really funny that popped up on the feed as we're going on about this.
And going on analytics, like Corsi, which is shot attempts.
Sure.
Fenwick is unblocked shot attempts.
Right.
Like, they serve their purpose. I mean, to me, describe to me what the flow of the game is going. And then really that's nothing more that I really take from that is like, okay, this is how the flows of games are going. There's other analytics like expected goals, and I don't even really know what goes into that. But I do know that in the series, the Wild were like expected goals like 5.
Yeah, a game.
They weren't scoring.
Right.
And I'm not going to say that I'm like an expert at analytics, even as the site manager for Hockey Wilderness.
Sure.
I listen to the arguments, and I numbers for me, I'm able to logically think about them and rationalize that. But we're never going to know exactly what happened to that puck on each single play until we get to know like the player tracking and puck tracking and all that stuff and all that data to know, okay, well, this player, Tarasenko's shot off of a normal wrist shot is 10 miles per hour faster than your average player or something like that. Right. And that's why that guy scores more goals or something like that. We're never going to know that until we get those weird, hard data type stuff. Yeah. And analytics do leave a lot out when it comes to telling the full tale. And really, like I said, it's our job as writers to at least try to figure out a way to explain things and provide that context. Because I still watch every single game. Yeah. I watch every game. Right. And, there's times where those analytics I don't agree with. Sure. But more often than not, those are really what's happening. Those are providing trends of what's happening in the game. And there's context with everything, and that's you brought that up. And it's just you're trying to understand things better. You're trying to validate your own eye test, first of all, because people rattle off with their own eye test ideas all the time, and that's where we get the ideas to buy out Parisi and Suter, because of that they have no heart. Right, yeah, because of, some Joe Blow who played high school hockey 30 years ago has a supreme eye test to the stats, of course. Mm-hmm. So that's where the difference is. We're just trying to understand the game, and that's all analytics has ever done. Have they come up with a perfect formula for analytics to develop a winning hockey team? No, I'm pretty sure they haven't. So we're not there yet. Baseball isn't even there yet, and it's been 40 years of analytics for baseball. So they're at least 20 to 30. So that's not what anybody is going for. Nobody is saying, Corsi wins hockey series indefinitely, end of story, close the book. Still goals. And so that's what really frustrates me. And for certain guys, to give credence to the people who completely dismiss analytics. You can buy. I feel like you should buy them to whatever extent you're comfortable with, but at least buy them a little. At least buy them for what they are. They're just numbers. And you can't. The people who bother me are the ones that completely dismiss them, write them off 100%. Yeah, you had it right on the head there. And I've got to look this up quick. To be someone that refuses to look at evidence against his position or her position simply because you have the physical capacity to do so and the God-given right to do so does not mean that you're still not wrong, and you might be entitled to say that the earth is flat. Doesn't mean you're right. It's all about the fake facts or fake news type thing that we're dealing with now. The alternative facts. People should be open to these things as another way to analyze a game. They're not the be all end all, but it's just another opportunity to see what happened. True. The Wild have the analytics people. Right. Warren Ice people. Yep. Which I wish that site was back. No, I don't even know how I made it the whole season without that site. I know. I didn't even think about it until the playoffs. I was like, I made it a whole season without Warren Ice. How the hell did I do that? I love their interface. My articles are so much worse now. And I'm pretty sure that they have way more data that's being used than what we have ever seen. Yep. Mm-hmm. Which is why they were hired. Right. It's not on them to, get the team past the first round since they've been here the last 2 years. Yeah. But what they're doing is they're just providing more analysis
for the people who make the big decisions to say, hey, player X is actually doing pretty good, and here's why.
Right.
I don't
Like,
know.
hey, you should trade for Martin Hansel because he's the defensive center that you need in the playoffs. They have no control over Ryan White playing games in the playoffs. I mean, that's just
Right.
the reality.
I'm sure the message was made crystal clear from that department that Ryan White, you might want to limit, the usage on him.
Well, even then, like, going back to baseball, it's like they had scouts saying, hey, you know what, he can't hit the high heater.
Right.
So you're going to use that to your advantage as a pitcher and throw high fastballs when you got the count in your favor, right? I mean, you could either eye test that, or you know what, I'm going to eye test that and then jot that down.
Right.
And say, hey, you know what, he can't hit the high heater. This is what happened in the history. We'll try to use that, see if that's true or not.
Yeah.
Really, honestly, that's all analytics are. Is just saying, hey, these are things that have happened. These are what we can try to use to benefit.
Right.
Like, hey, this goalie's soft on their glove. This goalie's soft stick side. Shoot for this, shoot for that. Just all it is a way of scouting other teams and other players to just give yourself an edge. And don't get me wrong, all teams self-scout themselves.
Yeah.
So they're going to pull those trends as well. So they're going to work on. I mean, you'd be stupid not to as a professional organization in sports.
Absolutely.
Like the Twins.
Hey, they got Falvey.
Yeah, finally.
It finally turned the corner 20 years later.
So yesterday, we kind of alluded to this earlier when we brought up, Joe Sakic, but yesterday was the draft lottery. Now, yesterday wasn't particularly my favorite day in hockey, for which we'll get to in a little bit, but there was just a few moments of just pure bliss where you watch the draft lottery, the drawn-out draft lottery, as pointed out to a friend of mine who doesn't really pay attention, but I forced the draft lottery on the television because I needed to see it. So I was like, this was kind of different. But anyway, the Colorado Avalanche went into the draft lottery with the best odds. I think it was like 19-point-some%. And not only did they not win the draft lottery, they did not have a selection. Like one of their combinations did not come up.
Yeah.
They lost to teams that had far fewer odds.
Yeah.
The Devils, the Flyers, and the Stars.
I thought I saw that the Devils were 8.2 odds to get number one overall.
Yep. Yeah.
That's where you go for your probabilities.
And the Avalanche were 18%.
All Taylor Hall does is win the draft lottery.
Oh God, that was so much fun to watch.
And what stinks out of all this was like Vegas, the new team got 6th out of this, but I just had so much fun just going. The Avs got 4th, and they were the worst team in the post-lockout 2004 era. What? That was wonderful. I couldn't.
Really was.
Weirdly enough, my crying Avs girl was not on my phone.
Oh, dude!
And I was using.
I knew I was missing something yesterday.
And I was using my new computer, so I didn't have that readily available.
Oh, sad.
Isn't the motto on the Minnesota sports flag like "Le Toit du Schadenfreude"?
It probably is, because that's literally all we have now.
No kidding.
The star of the Schadenfreude. It fits perfectly, I think. We love that the Blackhawks were swept.
Yeah.
Love that the Avalanche just can't even tank right.
But the Stars getting a top 3 pick, and Grant, good thing, thank God, it's a weaker draft, because we saw last year the Jets surge out of nowhere up to the 2nd pick and get Patrick Laine, and that's the reason why the Jets will probably be pretty good, relatively speaking.
He's so good that he scores on both nets.
But you praise the hockey gods that this isn't like a 3-player draft. This is kind of a 2-player draft and isn't really all that strong as far as a 2-player draft, and the Stars got 3rd. But thank God that was the case, because if they, the Stars getting any better is getting any more offensive talent for that matter is kind of a scary thought.
So you think they're going to spend it on a goalie? They should.
No, what are you talking about? They're paying like $10.5 million for their goalies.
No,
their goalies should be great, right?
It's a huge investment. I think that stock crashed.
My only worry, and it's probably not, I don't have to worry too much about it, about the Avalanche picking up 4, is
it's going to happen.
Get into like 5 to 10 range, and like Casey Middlestead.
It's going to happen, dude. Just
my soul will be crushed.
Just expect it.
You'll be anguished like Gretchen was when Riley Tufte was selected by the Stars.
Like if he goes to like Dallas or something, like I'm fine. Just not the Avs, please God.
He's totally going to the Avs.
But the Avs.
That's gonna yeah.
He's totally going to the Avs.
Just to needle you.
Yep.
All my Schadenfreude comes back to bite me.
It's the karmic convergence.
It's gonna happen, man.
But at least we get to watch him in a Gopher uniform.
For a season or maybe 2.
Right.
Hopefully 2.
Yeah.
And not answer questions after they lose the championship game.
Oh, God.
It's been...
God, I'm terrible, aren't I?
I have this hope for next year about the Gophers because the Frozen Four is here in St. Paul.
Yeah.
But I'll probably get crushed.
Yeah.
Again. Anyway. So that's all I got in the draft lottery.
Yeah, that's all it really... I mean, you laugh at the Avalanche and call it a day. I think that's fair.
Pretty much it.
Yeah.
I have no real strong takes on it.
Yeah.
Well, Wild were never going to be in it.
Right.
It's been 5 years now since the Wild were in draft lottery.
That's not a bad thing.
Yeah, that's.
Was that the last year that they stopped doing the last 15 or the
top
15 teams?
I forget when they switched.
I don't know,
but
I think it was right after that they switched, and the Wild have never been in it since.
The Dumba pick was their last draft lottery.
Okay.
That was what, 7? They were 7.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So
this year they'll pick what? 22nd.
They're not going to pick in the first round.
Well, I mean, their pick is the
Arizona.
Arizona will pick 22nd. Yeah,
something like that.
Or the second round. God.
No, 21st. Something like that. Yeah. Gross.
It's going to be busy on the second day, but at the same time, still got to wait.
Yeah.
Wake up at 9 in the morning rather than 8.
It is going to be rough not seeing them have anything on day 1. That is going to be tough.
So this one, the Wild second round pick this year was not part of the Martin Hansel trade.
No. It was the Chris Stewart trade.
Sent to the Buffalo Sabres. On March 2nd of 2015 for Chris Stewart.
The first time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
then he spent a year in Anaheim, and then he came back. But hey, we got a good deal on him. That counts for something, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they did get a good deal on him for this free agency. But,
right.
But when you look back at that pick being gone to Buffalo, and now that Tim Murray is out.
Yeah, well, I mean, on the bright side of that, you took away Chuck Fletcher's favorite pick dump, basically like his favorite dumpster for second-round draft picks. So
until
maybe that's
a new job.
Well, Tim Murray. Now we're going to trade all of our seconds to Los Angeles. Or
here's another random fact.
Yeah.
So the pick after that second-round pick, the Wild have, was the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Yeah.
And apparently this could or has been sent to the Vancouver Canucks as part of the severance package for John Tortorella.
That is ridiculous.
Wow.
I railed on that when that happened. I said, how does Jarmo Kekalainen still have a job for that? Knowing that he has to give up a compensatory pick to Vancouver.
That was a terrible year when we had picks being given away for ex-coaches.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing too is I swear to God the GMs just changed that now too. They won't be.
They all were like, we hate this, so they quickly changed it.
Yeah.
But a compensatory pick, a second rounder given up for John Tortorella because he was still technically on a terminated contract by Vancouver.
Future Jack Adams Award winner John Tortorella.
You got the damn truth.
They
need to hit more.
That should be Mike Babcock who wins the award, but I know it's going to be Torts. It's going to be Torts.
Isn't the Jack Adams Award though basically a kiss of death?
It really is. It really is.
It's like the President's Trophy. Only the Jack Adams Award, it takes a year for that to kick in.
Yeah.
So basically, the year after you win it, you get fired.
Didn't Wah win it? No.
Yep. Wah won it, and then the Ottawa McLean won it.
Doug McLean, yeah.
He got fired. Yeah, it's not a good track record on the Jack Adams. There's your usual suspects where every good coach has won one at one point or another, but then everyone else is just like a laundry list of coaches where you're like, what? Why don't you just call it the win differential award?
Right.
I mean, honest to God.
But I bet you Mike Yeo will get some sort of accolades after out-coaching Boudreau. Don't you hate Ken? Because he had a hell of a game plan to just let his goalie get shelled.
Well, he's doing the same here.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right.
Somehow the Blues scored, though. I don't know how that happened.
I missed it happening.
Their first shot of the period.
It was so boring, I missed it.
Shocking. All right. Do we have a Jersey game plan?
Well, I kind of threw out all those ideas to you, and I don't know if you were drinking, so you never got back to me on that.
Classic. I guess we can just kind of roll through the generic questions we ask our guests.
Yeah, let's do that.
We ask this to everyone. Two main questions. So do you have, can be from any time, a favorite hockey jersey, or since if you're like us, we can't pick a definitive one, do you have like a Mount Rushmore of favorite hockey jerseys?
Ooh, favorite hockey jersey. I used to have an old Mighty Ducks starter jacket.
Because we are ducks, and ducks fly together.
Oh, so did I. God, those were awesome.
Yeah, it was so warm.
Yeah. It was a pullover.
Yeah. Did you see the 96 tweet from all those jerseys?
Yeah.
The third jersey
we
program?
retweeted that. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Oh, what a beautiful graphic.
Favorite jerseys. I hate the mustard yellow of Nashville.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
this is a tough one for me because I don't really think about jerseys too much. But
you have any that you don't have that you want? That's usually kind of how we go with this.
I want a Fighting Saints jersey.
I have one.
I love that.
That's a good
I love how simple it is. It's like the old skating gopher.
Yeah.
For those.
That's probably our official podcast motto when it comes to jerseys is simple is always better.
Yeah. Well, and that one has a pretty complex, like a pretty detailed logo. But the jersey itself is simple, and then I feel like you can get away with that because you look at logos like Chicago and Detroit, very intricate and detailed logos, but they're done so simply and on such a simple jersey that it really looks good.
The jersey itself is a pretty simple canvas.
Yep.
You don't really need to look at it to get its meaning like the Mooterus.
That is the unofficial least favorite jersey of this podcast.
Or the
favorite.
Like mid-90s Blues jerseys with the red. When Gretzky was there.
Yeah.
Did you guys, I retweeted this from
I did see that.
Friday night. Somebody at
so gross.
Scott Trade Center had a custom-made Blues jersey from that time with the red, and it was Tarasenko on the back. And I was like, I weirdly like this.
Yeah, it was kind of cool.
It was a player name and not some jersey foul.
And it wasn't like cheap looking, like it was.
Yeah, like they actually did it nice. Yeah.
And I was like, that's kind of neat, but I'm not sure where I stand on these. I have a small bias towards them because Gretzky once wore.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked the shoulder patches, the trumpet shoulder patches they used on those jerseys. But then I think somebody replied to that one with some kind of like they somehow, some way got like the trumpets jersey.
They had like a Gretzky one made.
Yeah,
with
they had a
font
Gretzky
on the back.
Yeah, the Gretzky one that was the very infamous shutdown third jersey for the Blues.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with the nasty trumpets coming out of nowhere in the middle of the jersey. They had that. I don't know how, because that jersey was never actually made. They had that somehow with Gretzky on the back, and it was gross looking, but it was very interesting just because like it's something you'll never see. You know.
I would say if I could get a jersey, it'd have to be like a Hartford Whalers one, like a throwback. There's just something about that logo and just like the genius behind it.
So beautiful.
With the negative space and the whale tail and all that stuff. I mean,
It took me a long time to realize that there was an H in the middle of it.
It's just
Here's
genius.
the Tarasenko.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
the numbers are goofy because they're like that.
Yeah, it was so 90s, but there's kind of like and I'm with Giles. I kind of have a nostalgic charm for like bad 90s jerseys. Some of them, some of them are just flat bad and they're gross and I hate them.
Like the Vancouver one.
Oh God, yes. But there's other jerseys where like they're so bad, but I have fond memories of them that I just kind of like them. You know, like. That's like I kind of have not that I like the Gorton's Fisherman Islanders jersey, but I kind of think it's cool just because it was so goofy and like so out there and weird and like the numbers were really goofy and
and Rangers, there's just something about the Rangers.
The Liberty jersey?
No, not even their third jersey, just their standard.
Absolutely.
With Rangers going down diagonally. There's something very old school and very. In the block lettering, I wouldn't mind if the Wild implemented something with the Minnesota script or something going at some sort of angle. But
there it is.
Oh God!
Like the lettering is like music notes.
It's so bad.
Oh,
it's so
like,
gross.
I don't know if that's like actual. Real, oh man!
No, I think that's what the font was supposed to be on those jerseys. I'm pretty positive. I'm pretty positive that was the standard font for those.
Should be the
famous Mike Keane declined jerseys that they have in St. Louis.
No, I like the Rangers white is in my Mount Rushmore of hockey jerseys.
You know what I really want too is what the World Junior team wore this year during the gold medal game was that USA. It was like their throwback USA.
Yep.
Oh, those are good.
There's just something about it where it's just got that classy feeling to it, and the blue was the right kind of blue.
Yep.
I don't know. I love that jersey. It was super sharp.
Yeah, I feel like they've done. I wasn't super crazy about the World Cup of Hockey USA jerseys. They were okay.
No.
But I think they've done a good job. Like they've done a lot of throwback type stuff for international play lately, and I really like it.
Team North America was the way to go.
That was a great jersey. I wish they would have done better.
I didn't think black and orange would work, but
it worked for that team. It worked for sure.
You don't like Philly?
I like the color combo enough. I think it works.
So you didn't like the?
I'm indifferent.
Grand Rapids Thunderhawks winning this year.
I guess I don't mind them. Like actually, they were my number one jersey.
I feel like it was kind of a weak crop this year,
the thing that separates is like I like Grand Rapids, but like the thing that kills me with the Flyers is like the nameplates. Like
the different color.
I just don't.
Their nameplates get goofy.
I don't dig the nameplates. So like, I don't know.
I can understand that.
I was a big. When I was a fledgling NHL hockey guy, I grew up watching Gopher hockey, but Eric Lindros was like my guy. You know.
I still have my Eric Lindros poster. Weirdly, I had an Eric Lindros poster, but no Paul Kariya.
What?
Weird.
That's weird.
I don't know.
You're way off brand.
Yeah. Like I still look for them. Like I'm like Paul Kariya poster. Should I?
I have at my mom's house. I have 2 full size. Like what would that be? Like 3 by 3.5, whatever. John Van Beesbrook posters, and I think I should salvage those and frame them. I'm pretty sure because they're pretty outstanding.
That's why my Paul Kariya photo is in a frame.
Right.
Actually, you know what? I didn't find it till a couple years ago, and it was buried in a box, and it wasn't even the photo that was in the front of the frame. It was buried behind a signed Darby Hendrickson photo. I don't understand the logic that went into this or why this was buried in a box, but there you go.
Oh,
There you go.
I just gonna put that.
Alrighty. Well, it's good stuff.
So I obviously now it has switched.
Sure.
The Hendrickson photo is behind Korea, but
For safekeeping, of course.
I think I caught wild fever at some point.
You must have. Yeah, Darby. Yeah. Ooh.
It's after Darby scored in that 6-0 trouncing in the Stars. Wasn't it?
Yeah, it must have been.
I have that puck still from that game.
Oh,
They had the commemorative pucks.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
face to face. It's like, all right.
I was at that game. One of the best games I've.
I was at that game
building,
too. I was selling programs at that game, and I do not have a program or B a towel from that game, and I don't know how. I mean, granted, I was like 15, but I don't know how I
That
screwed
was probably the
that
one
up.
game where everyone who got a towel took it.
Oh yeah.
They didn't
There wasn't any
have to do it.
spares. Yeah.
Yeah, no. It was amazing, the pregame video where they were showing
Yes.
Glory Days and Stars.
And then they show the Met Center get imploded,
Yeah.
and the crowd just went ballistic.
Yeah.
Oh man,
yeah.
that was outstanding.
Goosebumps just thinking about it.
That was one of the smarter things the Wild did. Was they had it was for their 10th anniversary season. They had a commemorative DVD come out where they had the full game of, and I think they had the fans vote on it. The DVD had 2 games. It had Wild Stars, that 6-0 rout when they first came back,
Yeah.
and then they had the Game 7 against Colorado in its
yeah.
entirety. I was like, you could not have picked a better 2
No.
games to put on a DVD.
That building was lit. I mean, it was. Chanting
Incredible.
Eddie's at the. Deafening volume.
Yeah.
I really wanted to go to that game, but it's like the one time my parents put their foot down. They're like, "Son, we really wanted to try to go to this game, but tickets were just way too expensive."
Yeah, I got really lucky. If anybody remembers that game, I'm sure you probably don't vividly remember a bunch of scrubby, squeaky-voiced North St. Paul kids selling programs in the concourse. But that was me up on the upper level by myself trying to hawk programs with little to no sales experience. I think I sold about 2 in a half an hour, which is kind of groundbreaking considering what game it was.
Yeah, we were. I was in the it was like section 219 or something like that. And
Yeah.
I was in the very last row before the standing rail.
Yeah.
And man, I just remember watching the place blow up.
Erupt.
I mean, if there was I was surprised that the roof was still on that building after that game. I mean, Darby scoring was one thing.
Yeah, it was. I mean, all the Minnesota guys were scoring goals for the Wild. It's like, this is great.
It was amazing. Manny Fernandez kind of sticking it to his former team.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Good stuff.
Jeff Nielsen scored a goal. Long forgotten Jeff Nielsen.
May he rest. I mean,
All right, so we should probably get close to wrapping it up here.
Yeah, we can sit here and talk about how that game was great,
Right.
but
it was.
It was so great, though. You got one more question for him?
yes. The second
And even
question.
controversial.
Yeah.
Very.
The second
Very.
question we ask our guests is, do you consider soup to be a meal? Just soup. Now, I will say I have tried to ask the hockey insider, Bob McKenzie. He had a Q&A while on a flight this week. He did not, unfortunately, answer my question, but the hope someday is that he will put his foot down and give us an answer on this.
Sure.
But what is your stance on
Is
this?
it strictly
Because
just soup?
just soup.
No bread or anything with it? Crackers?
I don't think it makes crackers. Is that the deal breaker for you? Crackers?
No.
I was going to say. I was like, this seems weird.
It really depends on the soup for me. Like those thin brothy soups,
Yeah.
like your chicken noodle and those beef broth type stuff.
Tomato bisque.
Yeah, even tomato. Like I do not consider those meals, but
Sure.
a good creamy chicken wild rice or like a even like a potato broccoli or something like that.
Okay.
Or 3 cheese. Some of those can be pretty hearty where you really probably should eat more than like a bowl of those because you might have a heart attack. But
I don't know what you're talking about.
But no, in general, soup is not a meal.
He did make exceptions, so. I mean, we've talked about the chili exception a lot. I think that's its own genre.
Chili is a meal.
It's its own genre, though. I think. I don't think you can. I don't think you can put chili.
Chili's got your veggies, your meats.
Right. It's closer to like a stroganoff or
stroganoff. I'm hungry now.
That's why I had a pulled pork sandwich
with
coleslaw.
Yes,
that's right.
Anyway, all right.
He's been out in California. The Californians do it like that.
No, they put avocado on everything.
Oh,
everything.
Sorry.
Everything. Like everything you order in California has an avocado on it. I can take it or leave it. It depends on what it's on.
Like if there's guacamole on my nachos, I'm usually like,
Yeah.
I'll choke it down.
Right.
I'm not like, hey, do you want guacamole? No, I don't want it.
It's like a less tasty sour cream, basically. But yeah, like they put it on everything, and it's just like, like I said, I can do it, but I'm just not a big fan.
Gross.
Yeah. All right, that can probably wrap it up for us.
Sure.
Is there anything you want to plug, or where can people find your work?
Well, I'm always on Twitter at Joe Boo, the number 15. That's JOEBOU 15. Also at Hockey Wilderness and hockeywilderness.com. That's where you find all my writing.
Word.
Well, thanks for sitting in with us this week.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Joe.
It's been fun, even though we collectively sigh at the fact that it's not even May 1st, and we're now into week 2 of the off season.
Mm-hmm.
But this is why we were given the wonderful thing known as alcohol.
This is why I wrote the 5 stages of grief.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you can always refer back to them now. They're on the internet. Everything on the internet stays there.
It's permanent forever.
It's there forever. Yeah, like if you
can believe everything on the internet.
once you put it on the internet, it's there. You can try and get rid of it, but somebody will get it.
Somebody screenshotted it.
Sure.
Almost indefinitely.
Gonna revenge porn me, aren't they?
This took a turn.
It's a good time, Dad.
Yeah.
You can also find Ben and I on the Twitters at Ben Remington, at Giles Farrell. You can probably find Ben and I yapping at each other a little more this week because he's in town, so
right.
He has a little more free time,
yeah.
which will be fun because I kind of get bored. There's nobody to yell at.
I've been a little better lately. I've been on during the day a little bit more lately.
Right, there was a day last week when it was a pretty good interaction.
Yeah.
You can also find our podcast on Twitter at GATG Wild Podcast. And that's where we usually do a mailbag, but we didn't this week because, let's be honest, I was drinking, folks. Forgot to put it out there. You can find us on iTunes. Drop us an iTunes rating. Find us on Libsyn, Stitcher, and our collective writing works at Cold Omaha zonecoverage.com. I literally.
Yeah.
Anyway. So again, thanks to Joe for joining us this week, and we will catch you next week.
Later.
That's not resiliency. You're making it sound like we're good. That's all. I'm done.